Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts College Football Podcast, your ticket to all things college football. Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? Join us as we talk college football, from the national championship to college rivalries to bowl games to the Heisman Trophy to which conference is the best. We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between.
What is up? Welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition, with your host, Tom Dougherty. As always, this podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, as we're going to go over some of the talk on the preseason all-conference teams as they have come out. The big news is that there are actually no Oklahoma Sooners on that Big 12 defensive team, which is surprising, knowing that that team is going to be pretty formidable this year. Well, maybe as a collective group, they don't have one guy that you can kind of point at as like a defensive standout as of now. We'll find it out throughout the course of the season, but as of now, no preseason list nobody on the preseason list for the Sooners on the defensive team. We'll go over the rest of the teams by conference here throughout the show, as well as going over some of the stuff as we are under 50 days away now from the first game of college football. Yesterday was marked the 50-day mark, as we marked the 50-day mark as we are coming down the stretch here to the college football season. Going over some more news and notes. The Florida Gators, we have to do a little talk on Tim Tebow, because the Florida Gators are inducting him into their Ring of Honor this season. This is a guy who has won a Heisman. He's got a two-time national championship winner. I know he's playing minor league baseball right now. He actually got selected to the AA All-Star team for the Birmingham Rumble Ponies. Best minor league baseball team name, I think, at least in the East Coast. There's some cool ones out the West Coast, but the Birmingham, or actually it's Binghamton, or it's in New York, but they're called the Rumble Ponies, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, so he plays for them now and has actually got selected to the All-Star team, but he's going to be inducted into the Ring of Honor for the Florida Gators at a game between LSU and Florida on October 6th. And he'll have his name unveiled there in the stadium. So that's pretty cool. Good for Tim Tebow. I mean, he was a first-round pick. I don't know what Josh McDaniels was thinking. But, he got picked. Denver took him. He won a playoff game. I know it was kind of fluky. But I don't know. He kind of was a fluke. If he was going to do anything in the NFL, I feel like it was all going to be a fluke. I mean, you saw his release, right? You saw his arm motion. I mean, that was not going to work in the NFL whatsoever. And he did a lot of what he did. Got a lot of success in college due to his legs. So, I mean, we saw him play, and he was actually a really fun player to watch. I mean, obviously getting a team to back-to-back championships, or did they win back-to-back? Or within two and then his two in his time there is something that not many people have been able to do at all. I mean, have you seen a quarterback win two championships in their career at one college? I haven't seen it anytime lately. So you got to give Tim Tebow credit. He fully deserves the ability to get into that Ring of Honor. No doubt about that. All right, getting into some stuff regarding the all conference teams. We'll go through the conferences as we get along, go through the show here. But as far as the preseason, I don't know how much you guys take this preseason stuff into account. I know that they always like to tell you the preseason all conference teams, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a here's what to watch for kind of thing. Like here let you know. As the Big 12 did announce, I think theirs was one of the only ones to be announced. I don't know if we're going to get all four of the conferences here, but as far as the Big 12 goes, it's going to be there's actually three different guys from the 7 Sooners. They're all in the offense though, no defense though. 7 Sooners did make the team, obviously all offense it looks like, but it looks going to be, as I'm trying to get the full list here for those Sooners. So Rodney Anderson, obviously, Marquis Brown. We talked about Rodney Anderson a lot. This is a guy who probably will be up there in the top 3 running backs in the league this year, or in the country this year for sure, with Bryce Love and Jonathan Taylor. Also got to look at Marquis Brown, the 5'10" junior receiver. I mean, caught 57 passes in 13 games last year, team high 1,100 yards from scrimmage. So I mean, 7 touchdowns. Did get honorable mention All Big 12 last year, and he is now a preseason All Conference player as well. Two of their offense, but Ben Powers and Bobby Evans, the two offensive linemen. These guys are huge. Both guys are, one's a redshirt junior, one's a senior, so looking like they're going to definitely have had the experience and have been able to get some good time under their belt. Bobby Evans has played 26 games right tackle. The other guy, Ben Powers, he's a right guard, left and right guard, so you got these guys who are going to be able to solidify that offensive line for the Sooners this year for sure. That's going to be a key. I've talked about it plenty of times on the show. You guys know, if you listen, that I hound offensive line and defensive line play, especially in college, and it'll actually tell you a lot of different things. Another guy is a tight end, the 6'4" tight end, sophomore, Grant Calcaterra there. He was the All-American guy. He was behind the All-American last year, Mark Andrews, but this is a guy who still made a mark as a true freshman. He's going to come in now as a true sophomore. He's going to be obviously a guy you can watch for coming into the season, and to be, a 6'4" tight end, that's a pretty good little target for Kyler Murray to find down the field. So you got to be able to find a guy that big, I feel like, but he's also athletic. Played in all 14 games last year, made 10 catches for 162 yards, and 3 of them were in the end zone for the touchdown. So like that, it's called efficiency right there. But yeah, he gets open in the red zone. That's what tight ends are for. I feel like that's kind of their bread and butter right there when it comes to them. Okay, so I don't know. ESPN must have lied to me, because when I was going over my notes this morning, it said that they didn't have anybody in the any defensive players in the in this preseason all conference, but they have Brendan Riley Hiles, who's a freshman DB, 5'9". He's an early enrollee. He's a guy who's been an All-American, U.S. Army All-American out of high school. Went to the IMG Academy, which is basically a mini college. Basically, it's almost like going to junior college while you're in high school, because it's basically a sports machine. Sports, like, I don't want to call it a factory, but it basically is. And you got 5-star recruit status by rivals, and then obviously picking Oklahoma, number 2 cornerback of the league. He did play last season a little bit. That's for, I'm assuming, for IMG Academy, because he's assistant freshman. For IMG, he's 5 passes, interceptions, and forced 2 fumbles in his senior year. So it's pretty good. That's going to be a guy who's probably going to see the field a lot. It's not because just because you're a freshman doesn't mean that you're not going to see the field, even at a program like that. But because if you're a 5-star recruit, they're not going to waste your talent on the sidelines. That's for sure. Some other guys coming out of Oklahoma, but this time on the other side, out of Oklahoma State, Justice Hill. Justice Hill is going to be very good this year. If you guys got to pay attention to him, he actually is up there in the. I was going over the draft rankings for 2019 for the NFL on Monday's show, as we were looking at who to watch for the season, just like we are kind of now with these preseason All-Americans or All-Conference players. Justice Hill's up there. He might be up there. He's up there maybe a little all with Bryce Love, maybe not because of the numbers he's put up, but because of the skills that he's able to have. And he's a good size, 5'10" for a running back, nice. And he can be able to, if he can turn in what he did last year, I think this year he's going to be even more kind of relied on because you have no Mason Rudolph and you're going to have to figure out. I mean, the quarterback situation I'm not worried about at Oklahoma State at all because they have some good guys who are going to come in there and play. But, you got to be able to have a running back as well and be balanced. The other guy is Marcus Keys, a 6'3" offensive lineman from Oklahoma State. He was the second team all academic Big 12, and so he's a sophomore or a freshman. So he's a freshman sophomore coming in this season. Big dude, 6'5", 6'3", 308 on the inside on the offensive line there for Oklahoma State. So definitely watch out for him. I mean, 6'3", 305 makes me think maybe probably like a guard or a center there for him. And then the other guy from Oklahoma State is Jordan Brailsford, a defensive lineman. As this is, I think, his third time making the list. As he is 6'3", 250 from going to be a junior, a redshirt junior, as he comes in. He didn't play as a sophomore season due to injury, so he'll have an extra year of eligibility as well. And be able to extend that out and get some more snaps at college. I mean, you got to take advantage of those because injuries do suck. I understand, but if you can rehab it back, you get an extra year of school, extra year of reps. It can help you out, make you grow further, and the older you get, the better. I feel. All right, some more stuff. As obviously we can go through the offense here. West Virginia had Will Greir. The quarterback, obviously, I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback this year in the NFL. We saw. I mean, he's a guy. I mean, they have him listed at 6'2". I feel like he's a little taller than that, but I mean, that's fine. 6'2", 6'3" at West Virginia. Dana Holgerson's going to have a high-powered offense this year. We talked a lot about it. We're looking forward to watching him sling the ball around there in Morgantown because their schedule is interesting. It's backloaded, so they have not easy games, but they have games where they can really get on a hot streak through the whole top half of the season. Be undefeated as they enter that Texas game, and then they go Texas, Oklahoma State, and then what's their last game against? I think the last game again. Oh, maybe it's Oklahoma's last game. Oh yeah, it goes Texas, TCU, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, or they play all four of those teams to end the season off there, and they play two at home and two on the road. And when you have a big quarterback, it kind of doesn't matter. When you have a quarterback who's hot, I mean, if he hopefully rolls into that Texas game with 6 wins, or I mean, what would be 8 wins on his back or 6 wins on his back already before that game starts, and he can roll in there and keep it going because there's nothing better than having rhythm with your receivers coming into a big game. And when you have 4 of them back to back to back to back like that, you can really use that momentum and rhythm to get you through that tough stretch. Is just a nice little addition right there. So he was the quarterback on this team. The 2 running backs, along with 2 other running backs, along with the other one, along with Justice Hill and Rodney Anderson, actually is another guy who is up there in the draft talk. David Montgomery from Iowa State. This is a 5'11" running back here, as he's going to be coming in playing. This is his first time, I think, on this list. But I mean, you got to watch Iowa State. These are the team that has a pedigree of upsetting the big dog. I mean, they beat Ohio State. They beat Oklahoma last year in that game where the guy caught the crazy ball catch on the sideline. They don't play down to their opponent; they play up to the more difficult opponents. So the Cyclones are not an easy out. You got to play them. You got to play them tough. And I think that they're going to be an interesting little probably party ruiner because I don't think they're going to really be able to get up in the actual conversation of winning the conference. There's just too many good teams like West Virginia's and the Oklahoma State's pretty much who you're going to think about. Maybe a TCU if Kenny Hill can get in there and do something. But I mean, Iowa State can be the party ruiner for sure. They can ruin your season and throw a wrench in it. I mean, they didn't really do it last year. They kind of tried almost to do it last year to Oklahoma, but the fact that Oklahoma beat Ohio State, that was a big deal, and that obviously helped them out a little bit there. All right, looking at the rest of this, the wide receivers for this, Denzel Mims from Baylor. He's going to have an interesting season this year. They got Charlie Brewer down there, the new quarterback, kind of that same prototype as a Baker Mayfield. And he's going to be down there slinging it as he's going to have a Denzel Mims, a 6'3" receiver from Baylor. Also, we talked about Marquis Brown. And then the other guy is from West Virginia, David Stills the fifth. That's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. Him, or just like the dynamic between the two, a receiver and a quarterback, a 6'4" receiver on the outside to an accurate quarterback like Will Greir can be unstoppable. I mean, depending on how I mean, Daniel Holkinson, I can imagine his offense is going to be pretty intuitive. I'm trying to think of the right word. Ingenuity, intuitive, whatever. Whatever word it is. But it's going to be a smart offense and be able to get plays where David Stills, the fifth, will be able to sneak it behind defense or get inside. The zone coverage is there. He's a big body there to be able to get the ball too. All right, we'll come back and do the rest of this all Big 12 team. We'll talk about the defense as well, and then if I don't know if we have the other conferences announced a preseason team yet. They all kind of come out one by one, so I'll go see if we can do some more talk of it. If not, we're going to come over to the things to watch for, 50 things to look at. We're not going to go through all 50, but I mean, ESPN likes to do this thing where they come out with all these 50 things in 50 days or whatever it's called. So we'll take a look at that and see if there's anything that we like to mention or discuss on the show today. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition today. As I'm continuing with the Big 12 preseason all-conference team here, as we're just looking at some guys that have been highlighted for us, and they've been kind of like, hey, these are the guys to watch for. I know I've talked about a lot of guys that I like to watch for. They're obviously, a lot of them are on this list, but some of the guys, it's college. There's a lot of turnover, and some guys fall through the cracks, and we don't want to forget anybody as we look at some of these defensive names. Kind of a bunch of no names. I mean, you look at this, the DBs, obviously Chris Boyd at Texas and Kendall Adams, Kansas State. I mean, you got Brian Peavy at Iowa State. I'm trying to think of somebody that I recognize, like Deshaun Johnson at Texas Tech. I mean, all these teams. The Big 12 defense is going to be interesting. It's got to be interesting to play defense in the Big 12 because they don't really like to play defense that much in that conference. But yeah, so you don't really see a Kansas. Well, there's one Kansas player on here, Daniel Wise, but interesting. Kansas is like the minor league football team, but just. We'll see how many games they win this year. But yeah, just looking at these Big 12 defense, it's just interesting. Like I said, it's interesting knowing. I mean, you got three Texas Tech guys, and we'll see how many points they give up this year. A Kansas State guy, TCU Tech, two Texas guys, Oklahoma. There's the one guy on Oklahoma, Austin Siebert. Yeah, interesting. But that's what I was saying. Like, there's only so many guys that will be able to perform well enough in that high-powered offensive conference in order to get noticed. There's some defensive guys, but we'll go over to the Pac-12. I know the offense is a little more sexy than defense, but on the Pac-12, we have to think about the preseason guys there too, and some guys to watch for. Obviously, Bryce Love is your running back on this preseason team here. But I mean, you got to look at Cleo Tate as well. Cleo Tate is going to be interesting little quarterback. He might be a guy who's going to steal the thunder from Jake Browning. Jake Browning, yeah, you could look. He thought he was going to be the guy when we looked at him his sophomore year, and then he goes through that. Has what happened. Obviously, with the game against Alabama getting a little dinged up, but having this junior season of trying to get back healthy, and then having this year of health, hopefully that can mean that he'll be able to do good. So we're looking like so Khalil Tate, Jake Browning, and Justin Herbert are your first, second, and third team offense. Also Tyler Huntley on there, who's actually going to be an interesting guy as well. He's a quarterback for Utah. He's definitely somebody I'll be watching for this season. But, Cleo Tate was the guy who kind of had a great end of the year last year. I was like, oh, what? Who's that? Oh, yeah, he's a pretty talented guy over there at Arizona. He's going to have a new head coach with Kevin Sumlin, which might bode well. I mean, he's a pretty interesting. He's a pretty innovative guy. I mean, not the best. I don't know if he's the best X's and O's guy. More of a raw recruiting kind of guy, energy guy, but. Not going to knock him there. So when it comes to running backs, Bryce Love, obviously. Watch for Patrick Laird at California. Cal's an interesting team where, they kind of go up and down. They obviously were pretty good with Jared Goff was on the team. They've had some good running backs. There's been really good running backs coming out of Cal. Look at C.J. Anderson, undrafted. He went to Cal. He actually was pretty good. Javad Best also. Marshawn Lynch, obviously. So, Cal, they breed some good running backs. They obviously breed some good quarterbacks, and receivers have usually offense. They definitely don't sleep on him, as he's going to be a guy definitely to watch for there in the East Bay in California and Berkeley. So, obviously the big guy is over on the other side of the water on the peninsula in Palo Alto. That's Bryce Love, and Bryce Love is just. Please stay healthy this year, because if you stay healthy, he's going to put numbers. He's a machine. The guy's a machine, especially in college. Especially playing with that offensive line, you just got to love that, the ability to do that. So, also got to look at Zach Moss at Utah. Zach Moss is the guy who's put up some numbers there. He kind of gets under the wraps. You don't think about him because he's at Utah, and Utah doesn't quite get the same pub. But you got to the Pac-12 is coming up. The Pac-12 is coming up. I know they still have the basement with Oregon State, but Oregon's coming back strong. They got Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's going to be a very good player, and he's going to be I think a very good quarterback in the NFL as well, as he's got the size to be able to do it. A little taller than Jake Browning, probably a little bit better mobility as well with his legs. You got to be able to take that into account. Oregon's up. Stanford's not going to be going away. They got a good running back. I feel like the two LA schools might be taking a little bit of a year off this year, but next year with JT Daniels, a whole year experience, and Dorian Thompson Robinson over at UCLA. He's also a very young talent who's not going anywhere. He'll be back next year as well. With Chip Kelly, and give Chip Kelly a whole year with that kid, and then come back next year. Those two schools down there are going to be tough. And then obviously a lot of coaching overhaul. We got two brand new coaches in Arizona, both schools. Obviously, Kevin Sumlin, more of your prototypical. He's had college experience coming from Texas A&M to coach the Wildcats down in Tucson. But then you have at Arizona State, it's Coach Herb Edwards. Herb Edwards. I don't know how Arizona State's going to be. They might be down with the old Oregon State team, but I don't know if they're going to go 1-10. I'm not going to say that, or whatever the record was last year for Oregon State, or 1-11. I think Arizona State will be better than that. But look at all these schools; they're all coming back up. Washington's not going away. Washington State, they're going to be revamped. They got a good coach. look at this coaching. The coaching in the Pac-12 is actually some of the best coaching in the league, I'd say. You got Chip Kelly back down there. UCLA. Clay Helton, he's more of like your game manager guy. But then you got David Shaw, great coach. That'll pump up your coaching ranks. Chris Peterson, great coach. Mike Leach, great coach. Mario Cristobal, we'll find out. I'm not sure how our guy at Oregon State's going to fare in his first year, but we got an ex-NFL coach. I'm not sure how that's going to turn over to the NFL. He hasn't been an NFL coach in quite a while. He was more being on ESPN and talking into a camera wearing makeup on a TV set. That's Herm Edwards. We'll see how he gets back onto the coaching staff. And then obviously Kevin Sumlin down at Arizona State or Arizona. And then you can't forget about the Utah school. Utah has Coach Whittingham, and he's been a very highly touted coach. You can't forget about him. And then obviously Coach McIntyre at Colorado is legendary pretty much now at this point. So you have coaches. There's some coaching talent all over this conference, and there's player talent all over this conference as well. So we're going to continue through this preseason top or preseason All-American, All-Conference, whatever you want to call it. Myles Gaskins, obviously, he kind of gets forgotten because you think about Bryce Love, and then even Zach Moss has has some really good highlight reel too. But then Myles Gaskin, he's been doing it almost. I feel like he's been doing it longer. He's been doing it since for 2 years now. Where Bryce Love has more been behind the Christian McCaffrey shadow than last year was his first year by himself. But Myles Gaskin has been the guy at Washington for a while. He's been a great. Him and Jake Browning have been a nice tandem in the backfield. Got them a lot of wins up there in Seattle. So this year, both those guys are going to be seniors. Both those guys are going to be basically doing their tryouts for the NFL. I don't know, but Jake, I felt like he might be able to be a guy who can get drafted. I don't know what his draft stocks look like this year, especially with the injury. He could be a good backup in the NFL maybe. But Myles Gaskins, that guy's going to play. He's got explosiveness. He's got speed. He can catch the ball in the backfield. I mean, he's got the whole package. He might not get a little bit bigger in the size to get through those NFL tackles, but he's fast enough to run away from him anyways, and then also got the ability to go out for the catch out of the backfield as well. So you'll like that. The receivers, though. So here comes Stanford again with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. This is a guy who is going to catch a lot of balls this year. He's going to make KJ Costello look really good because him and the other guy, the tight end, I'll come back to the other receiver. That's actually N'Keal Harry from Arizona State. We'll come back to him in just a moment. But looking at the two guys from Stanford are Whiteside and Caden Smith, and they're both huge. They're both very big. So watch out for any kind of play action to play over the middle. I mean, I feel like they're going to run a sluggo over the middle with play action off the back end and every single time. I mean, why wouldn't you run that? I mean, I'd run like a slant and go with Whiteside and maybe like a little out route with the have a little in and out play with Caden Smith, or have Caden Smith run a seam or something like that straight up the seam, and then have Arcega-Whiteside cut over into the middle and see where you're going to get your void. Make that safety make a decision, because the linebackers are going to get taken out of the play. There's going to be so many plays this year for Stanford. The linebackers are going to be on the backs of the defensive linemen, thinking that Bryce Love's getting the ball when they fake it, and KJ Costello is going to pull it right out of his belly, and then have a wide open Caden Smith or Arcega-Whiteside down the field because of the route, how you can call a route tree or route combinations to be able to get that. Basically, you're making that. I said you can make that safety make a decision. He's going to go across the field with Whiteside, or going to go up the field with Caden Smith. If he goes up the field with Caden Smith, you hit Whiteside in the void before he gets to the other safety. If he goes with him, then you give Caden Smith over the top. So, I mean, it's kind of a win-win. Like I said, the linebackers are going to get sucked right into the middle of the play. They're going to get taken out of there, and you're going to have a wide-open passing lane over the middle for KJ Costello this year, assuming he's named the starter. Obviously, you still have a couple different guys that he has to kit bass, but he is the definite favorite coming into the season, assuming he is healthy. All right, going back to Arizona State. I mean, this is a team that hasn't really been that relevant in the recent years. I mean, they got N'Keal Harry, big receiver there for them. And he's going to be a guy to make hopefully moves. I mean, he has ability. Somebody has to throw him the ball, obviously. I mean, but as far as it goes with talent, I mean, this is a guy who's only 20 years old from Chandler, Arizona. I mean, 6'4", 210-pound receiver. You can't go wrong with that. He's going to play in the NFL. Size can just get you some places. If you can catch the ball, you got good hands. Your size will help you be able to locate that ball high in the air, high point it, and pull it down. So definitely a guy who has been kind of gotten that NFL model tag because of the size and ability to do pretty much everything that he wants to do. I mean, maybe you got to check his 40 time. That's about it. All right, so looking at the rest of this, obviously we had mix and match of these offensive linemen. Trey Adams from Washington, Nate Herberg from Stanford. Can't have this list without a Stanford lineman. Caleb McGarry, also from Washington, and Calvin Throckmorton. There's a good. I like that. That's a cool last name. Calvin Throckmorton from Oregon, also on this list as well. And looking at the defense, I mean, it's the same thing. The defenses don't really get the big name, but I mean, you can actually look the linebacker for Stanford, Bobby Okereke. He's a big hitter. This is a guy who's going to come right up on the line of scrimmage, get up in the run plays. Also been able to be athletic enough to cover your running back or whatever in the. If he's going to drop back in zone, or if they're playing man-to-man. But this is a guy who can pretty much do everything. Very athletic linebacker there at Stanford, as well as You also got to look at Marvell Tell, the safety from USC. This is a ball-hawking safety, plays a great center field there for USC. Also has the ability to come up. I mean, the best safeties you can think of, I know there's differences between a free safety and a strong safety, but there's also hybrid safeties like Ed Reed, who can go out there. I mean, he's obviously one of the best safeties, if not the best safety ever to play. I mean, you could ask Charles Woodson, but I mean, ever to play the game, and you could be like, okay, he's either going to drop back in the pass coverage or he's going to come up and stuff the run. And the guys who can do that are going to be very good players in the future. And Marvell Tell is one of those at USC for sure. All right, we'll come back and after the break and do some more talk. I'm going to see, like I said, these kind of come out as they go along here. These preseason all conference teams. We'll do the Big Ten when we come back, and we'll talk about that after the break. So stay tuned.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA Podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition today, as I am talking Big Ten now, as we are going conference by conference here through these all-conference preseason all-conference teams. Looking at the Big Ten, who actually, you kind of forget the Big Ten actually has some quarterback talent this year. I mean, Trace McSorley is the most experienced. He has been at Penn State for a while now, coming into, I think he's got to be his senior season already now. But then you also have to look at Shea Patterson at Michigan, and the fact that he is going to be coming in not cold. Obviously, you're going to come in as a transfer. You're going to be there. He's there now, but I mean, still kind of cold. Didn't really go through spring practice all that much. How to get his transfer papers all figured out through the compliance departments of both Ole Miss and Michigan, so he didn't have to sit out this year entirely, so he could play. So you got to be able to look at him as a guy who might take a little bit to work into that offense there at Michigan, but a guy who doesn't really need that much time is Brian Lewerke at Michigan State. So you kind of forget, there's another school in Michigan who actually has they've actually had better quarterbacks than Michigan has in the last long time. They have Kirk Cousins, even Connor Cook. They both went to Michigan State. Who has Michigan had that we couldn't talk about as a quarterback other than Tom Brady, which was 15, 20, almost 20 years ago now. I mean, this is Michigan. They're kind of lacking. You're losing. I would say Kirk Cousins. Honestly, that's your guy right there. Say Connor Cook's still pretty good. He hasn't started, but he's a pretty good backup. But so Brian Lewerke obviously is there along with Shea Patterson, and the always reliable Alex Hornibrook in Wisconsin, who is just like, I mean, Jonathan Taylor is going to carry your booty this year. Maybe we'll get some play action plays and get an easy throw here and there if Paul Chryst trusts you with it there Wisconsin. Then looking at the running backs, obviously Jonathan Taylor's there, and then J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins could be a sleeper Heisman pick. This is a guy at Ohio State who's going to be with a new quarterback. If there's going to be Dwayne Haskins, they're going to be a formidable backfield, and we'll see how much Urban Meyer wants to get the ball into the hands of J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, they're going to manage his touches. That's kind of what it is. I mean, you can give the guy a ball every play. He's that good. He's athletic. He's that much better than everybody else on the field, because sometimes that's how everything works. Obviously, big competition in Big Ten, you're going to have a lot of talented guys in the field there, but with a guy like J.K. Dobbins and Miles Haskins in the backfield, for Ohio State. Watch out, league. I know these are guys who haven't had the most experience. Jacob Dobbins a little more, but I mean, watch out, league. You saw what Miles Haskins could do when he came in for JT Barrett last year. So, I mean, this is a guy who has the ability to put up some serious points, whether it's with his legs or his arm, and he'll have another running back next to him, or another runner next to him that is going to be able to do the same thing with his legs and have the explosiveness that he has. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor gets all the pub. He had the good year last year against some weaker competition. We'll see how he does against this year, where they have maybe one, or they do have two more games that are a bit tougher than last year. So, but you know, being in that Big Ten West, it's just I don't know if it is it going to hurt. Could it be a hurt eventually, like down the road? Is it going to hurt him because of the fact that he has had lesser competition or whatever it may be? But Jonathan Taylor is the guy at Wisconsin. It's not Alex Hornibrook. This is Jonathan Taylor. He's the guy that all the defenses circle before you go play Wisconsin. He's the guy that we need to stop in our game plan. They game plan for Jonathan Taylor. They don't really game plan for Alex Hornibrook, no offense, because he's more the game manager. He's a quarterback, going to touch the ball every snap, but most of the time he's going to be either handing it to Jonathan Taylor or I mean, we'll see. I don't think he didn't have as many last year. I was actually, when looking at stats, I was just kind of surprised to see how low his catch totals were, but I mean, maybe we'll see if they get more of the ball out of the backfield to him this season, as that's becoming a bigger and bigger part of the game this time around. I know there's always the fads. Play action is something that's been able to stay around for a while, obviously, as it is very effective. But like the read option or wildcat, I mean, those are all kind of fad things. But we'll see how it works with that offense there at Wisconsin, because I mean, you know, run pass options are pretty good. I mean, I know those are pretty good there too, and then screenplays and everything like that. Those are all proven to work over time. But you know, getting to a place where now running backs are going to catch 7, 8, 9, 10 balls a game. That's the way you're going to go. And if you're going to run a pro-style offense, you'll be able to show. I mean, do you think college coaches, in a whole separate conversation I'm kind of just thinking about here, but do you think college coaches are obliged? Are they just trying to win games, or do you think they're obliged, like knowing that Jonathan Taylor is clearly your best player? He's clearly your best player. He's clearly your best prospect to go to the NFL. Do you think that you mix in some more run play or more different kinds of passing plays, whether it's through screens or quick little check down plays or option route for a running back, to be able to get him more film and examples of his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield? Because that's a big part of the NFL these days. It'll really help your draftability. I think that's why Rashad Penny got drafted as early as he did. I think it's why Sony Michel got drafted as early as he did. I think it's why, obviously, the Giants took Saquon Barkley instead of the quarterback, because he is valuable in the fact that he can run and catch. And can really set the defense and make him basically guess whether he's going to get the ball. Because even if you hand it to him and pull it out of his belly, you can still throw it to him. That's the thing. It's not over. So, I mean, that's the thing. And I think that, I mean, knowing the Giants, they're probably expecting Eli to maybe have a lot of checkdowns this year. So, taking a little risk and like, hey, maybe that checkdown will turn into a 25 or touchdown gain if he's able to bust one out. And same kind of thing for Jonathan Taylor. Same kind of thing for Bryce Love at Stanford. Do you think that their coaches kind of like, I don't know, key or angle their playbooks more towards that player to be able to highlight them more, to get them more face time? I don't know. For NFL teams, maybe here and there, they'll probably pick they'll pick their spots. It's not every time. I'm sure they'll pick their spots depending on obviously who they're playing and what the situation is of a game. They're trying to win football games. It's their job to win football games for their school, not to pump up their players for the next level. Obviously, they do that in itself as well, but it's not the main goal of their job. It's just a small part of it. But I do think that Wisconsin, looking at the catch totals, Alex Hornibrook, maybe he doesn't have the greatest touch in the world because it's not actually throwing it out of the backfield, throwing a player out of the backfield, especially when he's on the run like that and you're kind of on a short drop. It's not the easiest thing to do, and maybe he doesn't have the best touch to get it to those short yardage to his running back out of the backfield is what I'm trying to say. There we go. Short plays to the running back out of the backfield. But knowing the way this game is going these days, we're probably going to see a lot more of it. knowing the way people drafted. I mean, you saw big, strong running backs like Ronald Jones and Nick Chubb, who might not be as dangerous out of the backfield catching the ball, fall further in the draft. And even a Darius Geis fall further in the draft. I know he had some more stuff dealing with he had to deal with. But it's looking at how these teams are picking running backs. Obviously Saquon was a once in a blue moon kind of player. I'm still kind of on the fence about him, honestly, as you guys know. If you've been listening to if you've been listening to the fantasy football show that I do as well, you'll know I'm kind of on the fence, waiting, not putting my eggs in the Saquon basket until I see him at least a handful of games where he can sustain success. And his stats in college didn't really translate. You know whose stats in college translated? Christian McCaffrey. You know his stats in college probably will translate well? Bryce Love, Jonathan Taylor, all those guys. All those guys averaged, look at Leonard Fournette, same thing. Ezekiel Elliott, they all averaged well over 3 yards a carry in many, many, many games. Christian McCaffrey didn't have a game where he averaged under 4 yards a carry at all. And I know Saquon, he's playing in the Big Ten. He's got to play against Michigan and Ohio State's front seven. Okay, well, look at this guy. Look at what Sony Michel did. Look what Nick Chubb did. Look what DeAndre Swift's doing. They're playing the SEC, baby. That's tough. That's football. That's front line, big dudes in the front. No matter what team it is, they are going to come after you. All right. I've got off my Big Ten here a little bit here. As we'll come back. We'll reel it back in. Looking at these all-pro, all-conference preseason guys. J.K. Dobbins, obviously. We all look at J.D. Spielman at Nebraska. This is a guy, I know it says AP, it's kind of like a flex position here. It's not really any position, basically. But this is a guy who I think Scott Frost is really excited about. Being able to come into a school like that and have somebody like this to be able to kind of hang your hat on as he's going to try and I don't feel like he's going to overhaul that whole roster, because it's going to take a while. You're going to have to do a couple. You have to do a couple of recruiting classes, recruiting rotations. I'm trying to say here, but this is a guy who's got explosiveness when it comes to returns and stuff like that. He's got a 99-yard kickoff return last year. Our receiver, obviously, he's a little smaller, shorter stature, but obviously a guy who can get in the slot and really, really, really wreak havoc, because obviously another thing we're going towards. We all love the big, tall receiver. It's great. We love him. But there's a reason why there's a lot of shorter guys in the NFL these days who are making big waves and making money and making things happen and winning championships. Last year, I think that the Eagles. The Eagles had Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith and Trey Burton too, but obviously look at the Patriots: Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan. Those are all smaller, faster, angled guys. Get open. Cole Beasley kind of guys. Ryan Switzer. Even the Niners have one now too. So they're kind of everywhere as they're going around. I know it doesn't have to be a white guy. It could be anybody. You look at some of these guys, Taylor Gabriel, what's the guy, Brown on the Cardinals as well. So, there's guys all over the place who are very, very good. Looking at J.D. Spielman, he's 5'9", 175 pounds, probably faster than all hell, and is going to be able to do a quite well for the Nebraska Cornhuskers there from the offensive position as he gets the honors. This year, looking at his, this is a guy did play in last 9 games last year, 40 catches for two touchdowns. That's not bad at all. Almost 600 yards catching, not even playing a full season. So, looking forward to watching him play this year. Surely for the Cornhuskers. We have talked about Noah Fant a little bit here on the when I was looking through the top guys at each position. That's a tight end from Iowa. He is surely on his way to the NFL, as he is a big tight end. Felton Davis at Michigan State, very good receiver, and then Stanley Morgan's the other receiver at Nebraska. As they are, I got 2 guys obviously in Nebraska. If they can stick around, or if you can get Scott Frost to figure out a quarterback situation there, that might be an interesting little team. Obviously, their schedule this year I've already gone over and whined about and just shook my head about how they can get that kind of schedule, and Wisconsin can go 2 years in a row, especially after going undefeated last year, and get the schedule they got this year, which is not even close to the difficulty that Nebraska has to play. I mean, they got a bunch of tough road games, Nebraska does. Wisconsin does not. The toughest road game is Penn State. That's about it. And that's without a Saquon Barkley as well. So, that's just, I'll get off I'm not going to go in the rants anymore, but it's annoying knowing that. All right. That'll wrap it up for the show. This segment, as we'll come back with the final segment of the day today, and we'll do. I'm gonna see. I think if the ACC and the SEC come out with a preseason rankings, we'll go over those in the final segment. So everybody, stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, welcome back to GSMC Football Podcast, the college football edition today. My name is Tom Dougherty, your host, as we are going to finish it up with this segment. We'll do the ACC and the SEC all in one, as we'll run through this really quickly. In the ACC, Kelly Bryant does not get much love. He doesn't get much love. There's 3 guys who are actually ahead of him right now. Eric Dungy, who I think is Tony Dungy's son, at Syracuse. I can double check that, but I mean, Josh Jackson, I love Josh Jackson. Watching the West Virginia is going to actually be a really interesting team this year. Not West Virginia, Virginia Tech. West Virginia is going to be interesting too. Wrong conference. Virginia Tech with Justin Fuente now. They are with a little more time under his belt there, getting his own guys in there. You got Josh Jackson under center there. I mean, he's a very athletic quarterback. Got the great wheels, and be able to get a little more accuracy up with the arm. It'd be nice, but that's about it. All I would ask from him. So. Definitely like that. Looking forward to the season as the Hokies look to, kind of mess around a little bit in the ACC. I know the ACC has been kind of dominated, obviously, by Clemson the last few years. Miami wants to say something about that as well, but you gotta be able to win football games, and be able to do that, you gotta be able to throw fast. I mean, no, he's not a different guy. Eric Dungy, the quarterback for Syracuse. I'm like, whoa, I think the spelling's a little different anyways. There you go, double check that. So yeah, the Josh Jackson there, and then actually the top rated quarterback in the SEC is Ryan Finley at NC State, who, I mean, he kind of got overshadowed last year by his defense, and the fact that you're going to have that. I don't know if you lose some defensive players like B.J. Hill and obviously Bradley Chubb, but being able to come back, having the pedigree you created last year, creating a good culture. I mean, good turnover. You probably had young guys who learned a lot from Bradley Chubb last year, and be able to turn it in this year, and come in there and step up for themselves. And then having a good offense on the other side with a good quarterback. I mean, if you have a good quarterback, your offense will probably be at least decent. I mean, you can have all the talent in the world around you on the outside, but if you don't have a quarterback, then you're going to be But if you have a good quarterback like a Ryan Finley, who can put the ball where he wants it to be and manage the game accordingly, not lose and protect the ball well, you can figure it out with the guys you have around you. All right. Looking at the rest of the positions here, so Cam Akers actually at Florida State gets the nod for the running back position. Definitely the top guy. Florida State, they know how to cultivate those running backs. Obviously, coming in last year after losing his buddy DeAndre Francois. I don't know if they're not buddies, but I'm not going to call him his buddy. He's his quarterback. Doing it with James Blackman last year. I mean, maybe he probably highlighted him a little bit more, and he'll probably be asked to do even more, maybe even more this year, knowing whether it's going to be DeAndre Francois coming back or not. It doesn't really matter. It's just going to be a situation where, you know, this team's got to be able to have the next man up, or whoever's ready to go, and Cam Akers is going to be there. He'll be ready to go. He's not going anywhere, as he's definitely a guy who is going to be chomping at the bit to get the ball and get off and running and turn that Florida State team into get it back to the pedigree that it was once at in the ACC, because they were the team to beat in the ACC for a while. Jameis Winston's years. I mean, they had Kelvin Benjamin, Dalvin Cook. I mean, this is a team that was the team to beat for a long time, and then obviously kind of going downhill. They changed over coaches and everything. Now this offseason, looking to maybe take that and run with it there. Also, A.J. Dillon at Boston College is not the biggest name, obviously not the biggest school, but definitely a guy you got to watch for. Travis Etienne at Clemson. We've seen him a lot. Obviously, he's been on national TV a lot because of the fact that Clemson's been on there a lot and played in a lot of big games already in his career there at Clemson. Also, Travis Homer at Miami is a guy you definitely need to watch for. He's had some really, really nice games. And also, he's a tough runner in between tackles, big guy, can break tackles. I mean, love him, and also love him in the screen game too, catching the ball in the backfield, because he's actually got some pretty good separation speed there too. But also, if you can put his arm on a guy's chest and push him away quite easily. He had one of the better stiff arms last year. You can see also at the receiver position, Kelvin Harmon at NC State, looking like he's going to be the number one guy for his quarterback there. Ryan Finley at NC State, that could be the dynamic duo of the ACC. Maybe steal a couple games. I mean, the last thing you want to do is everybody beat up on each other. You want some to represent your team. That way, you're not going to get a team into the college football playoff probably if you do that. But you know, to each their own. Also, Amon Richards at Miami is a guy that we all need to watch out for, as he's had a very nice career. And then Hunter Renfrow and T. Higgins, obviously we've seen them. The same kind of thing with Clemson, being on TV a lot and being around the national spotlight for the last few years now. That'll be able to look at them and know that they're going to be pretty good this coming season as well. And then for the SEC, as we switch back over there, their team is interesting because you got Tua Tagovailoa as your quarterback, and we don't even know if he's going to be starting, even though we do think about it as if he's going to be starting. Drew Lock, Jarrett Stidham, and Nick Fitzgerald. So you got some very interesting and very talented quarterbacks in the SEC, in a league that usually is about defense and running backs. But this year, I said all four of those guys could be guys that are playing on Sundays very easily. I don't know about maybe not Jarrett Stidham, but Nick Fitzgerald's very talented. Drew Lock's very talented, a high rated quarterback for next year's draft. Obviously, Tua's got a few more years to go, but he'll get there and be pretty talented as well there with the Crimson Tide. At running back, Damian Harris. Also, Najee Harris is there as well as a 4-teamer, but I mean, the number one guys, Damian Harris, and then Benny Snell from Kentucky. Obviously, we know a little bit more about Benny Harris. About Damian Harris coming from Alabama, so we'll be able to look at that. And then also DeAndre Swift, for sure. You got to look at him, as he is going to be I think he's going to be one of the best players, if not the best player in the SEC this year. That guy, even playing behind a Nick Chubb and a Sonny Michel last year, was able to put up some numbers and not get forgotten in that backfield, because he is talented and he's got some he's kind of a combination of those two guys. He's got the power, but he's also got separation speed, and he's a guy that I want to watch big time, and I want him to get drafted by the Niners, please, because he's going to be a very good player. I mean, you some of these times you see people, you're just like, that's a guy. You watch film, you watch him in the game, that guy's going to be good. That guy's going to be able to go to the next level and play, because he's got great hands. He's also got the power and speed ability to get through a defense quite easily. Receivers in the SEC, A.J. Brown from Ole Miss. Obviously, his quarterback's going to be gone. He'll be working with somebody else. And then Deebo Samuel at South Carolina. couple interesting guy. I mean, that's interesting. You don't have anybody from really a big school. You got Ryan Davis from Auburn and Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, but that's about it. As those are the second team guys. Looking at these receivers, I mean, big receivers are valuable. Small receivers are valuable. Honestly, if you can catch the ball, basically, if you don't have butterfingers, you're valuable. In a team, is obviously having to be able to get separation is a big deal as well. But in college, the way route trees are created, or not route trees, but just the way routes are created and route combinations are created, you're going to get a guy open and be able to get that first read for that quarterback pretty open. So if you have some good hands, you're going to get some touches and you're going to make some plays this year. For a tight end, it's give me a break. Give me a little bit of a reprieve here when it comes to the name pronunciation. But the tight end from Missouri, Albert Okwuegbunam. I don't want to pronounce. I'm just sounding it out. I don't want to I'm not trying to butcher his name. I'm just sounding it out. It's Okwegbunam. Okay, you guys pronounce that. Okwuegbunam. Okwuegbunam. Is there a silent anything? Because I'm just sounding everything out. I think I did a pretty good job. All right, but he's a tight end from Missouri, and having he's going to be him and Mr. Locke up there, Drew Locke, are going to be a weapon. I mean, you might see Missouri up there in the rankings by the end of the year. I mean, there's some teams in the SEC that can get stunned for sure. Missouri have a big tight end like that to be able to get in the red zone and make plays. I don't know how the rest of Missouri their surrounding cast is going to be, or their defense, but you got to like a big, tall tight end, because I know I do as well. And then the offensive line, we got two guys from Alabama on there. Jonah Williams, I have to highlight him because he is the pride of Folsom High School here in California, my alma mater. Go Jonah. Good for you, buddy, as you're going to be definitely headed to the NFL as well. Very talented offensive lineman there for Alabama. Has played a lot of big games, had a lot of time. I think he did actually get hurt in the game against Georgia last year. Hopefully he's healed up and is ready to go for this coming season, because he's a big boy and he's a power in the middle in the offensive line. Whether you're going to put him at guard or at tackle, it doesn't matter. Also Andrew Thomas at Georgia, Greg Little at Ole Miss, and then Trey Smith at Tennessee, along with Jonah Williams, his teammate at Alabama, the center, Ross Pierschbauer. Or Pierschbacher. There we go. That's not Bauer. It's an H. Pierschbacher. That's a cool name. Pierschbacher. Pierschbacher. I like it. All right. We're coming to the end of the show here. I'm kind of done with these preseason rankings, but I don't think cool. I like the preseason. I like the preseason all teams, because they kind of just give you college is hard. College is hard to pay attention to all the time. It's hard to remember all these players. They turn over all the time. Sometimes they're there 3 years. I mean, they have to be there for at least 3 years. But there's also over 150 schools in Division I college football that there are. I mean, obviously, look at these conferences. I mean, the Big 12 and the ACC. I mean, the Big 10 and the SEC have 14 teams. I'm pretty sure the ACC has 14 teams as well. The Big 12 has I think the Big 12 actually only has like 8, and then the Pac-12 has 12 actually. So I mean, that's a big collection of schools, and that's just your power. I mean, that's not Louisville, that's not Notre Dame, that's not any of your military schools, that's not BYU. That there's still schools all over the place that we like to talk about. It's not SMU, it's not, I'm trying to think of other schools that maybe are Boise State team sometimes, or even UCF, who has become the Boise State of this decade seemingly now, because of the fact that they are in the conference and go undefeated and think they should be able to get the spoils of being in the non-Power 5 conference. Go talk to Boise State. Go ask Chris Peterson why he went to Washington, because he wasn't getting obviously they got the Fiesta Bowl. They won the Fiesta Bowl. They beat Oklahoma. Did they say they were national champions? Don't get me on this again. I'm going to start yelling at the UCF fans because they're stupid in the state of Florida and their AD for trying to do that. I mean, yeah, sure. Have fun, guys. You guys are literally in Orlando, so might as well just make up a reason to have a parade at Disney World. There you go. Just ridiculous. But and then your coach leaves, which is the funniest part of the whole thing. Your coach just says, he pulls a Chris Peterson, basically. He pulled a Chris Peterson. He didn't go to the biggest school. He didn't go to the number one. He didn't go to the biggest program in his conference. Chris Peterson didn't go to USC. He didn't go to Stanford. He didn't go to UCLA. He didn't even go to Cal. He went to Washington, who hasn't been good in like 2 decades, and he made them good. And then look at UCF. They don't get the love that they deserve, or I don't know about deserve. Deserve is a weird word. They don't get the love that they want, or they think they deserve, because they go undefeated, just like Boise State did with Kellen Moore over there and in Idaho, but obviously being in Florida a little more visible. But Scott Frost leaves. It goes to Nebraska, not the biggest school, not Michigan, not Ohio State, not Penn State, not even Michigan State or Wisconsin, Nebraska, which is also, just like Washington, a historical power. They've been good in the past. Washington's been very good in the past. Brock Heward was a pretty good quarterback, actually. Go look at his stats and how good Washington was back in the early 90s. So definitely take that into account. All right, that'll wrap it up for the show today. As we'll come back on, we're going to come back on Monday and do back to our normal schedule here, as we are kind of going through these little holiday weeks here in the middle of the summer, shaking things up. As we come to you on a Thursday today, we'll be back on Monday. So everybody, stay tuned, or stay happy over the weekend. Stay tuned. Go listen to the college football, or the fantasy football show. On your podcast as well. If you'd like that, you can find whatever you want. Also do a technology news and a baseball show, as well as I'll have the baseball show from today out as the same time as this show is. So if you like baseball and you want to hear about some scores and news around the league, go listen to that one as well. And then also we the other football podcast that's not a college one is Jesse's show, as he does more NFL talk as well. All right, everybody have a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday. See ya. Bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.